Standing here at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, it's clear the global crises are no longer being treated in isolation. From the Middle East to Ukraine, the space for direct dialogue is shrinking. Turkey is positioning itself right at the center of that effort, bringing key actors and decision makers together at a time when diplomacy is becoming harder to sustain. To discuss that, I sat down with Hasan Basri Yalcin, Vice Chairman of Turkey's Akkoc Party. I'm Kubra, Akkoc, and this is One on One. Mr. Hasan Basri Yalcin, thank you very much for joining us here on TRT World on the sidelines of Antalya Diplomacy Forum.
Thank you very much.
Let's start with this forum itself. Why do you think this platform is very critical for Turkey and for the region and for the rest of the world, given it is being happening on the backdrop of multiple global crises?
Actually, if you observe the recent crisis all around the world, you will see that there is just one definition for the current situation in world politics, that's called uncertainty. And most of the state leaders all around the world right now observing this crisis of uncertainty, and that is why most of the enmities and most of the friendships are being reshaped in current years. So instead of having fights among the countries, instead of having crisis situations, diplomacy is better than all types of wars. So Antalya Diplomacy Forum this year is the fifth one, tends to be an established forum for world policy and diplomacy. In this diplomatic environment, we have different state leaders, different actors, academicians from all around the world discussing the current situation in world politics. And this is actually not just a world politics issue. The recent events in Iran, for instance, in the Gulf region, caused some psychological trauma for some states. For some Gulf states, you can easily see that they believed that they were protected under some security regimes, especially with their special relationship with the United States. But then they just saw when the events being taking shape in the Gulf region, the US umbrella for security and deterrence might not easily work. And in some cases, you can just see that your most valued partner might deal with some other national interest. That is why states are recreating their relations with some other states. Under normal conditions, under the unipolar power structure, for instance, states just look at the unipole and they take their position according to what that unipole is doing. But in multipolar structures, you need multilateral relations, you need multilateral economic relations, you need multilateral strategic relations. That is why diplomacy is important in current situation. If you do not want to be part of a war, if you do not want to be part of a crisis situation, if you want a stable region and stable economy, then you need to increase your relations with some other actors. And this Antalya Diplomacy Forum provides an environment for this kind of a relationship. I can see easily state leaders are sharing their own opinion with the recent situation. And this creates a good opportunity for most of the states to describe what's going on in world politics and how they can handle these kinds of situations.
Thank you, sir. I'll come back to Iran war in a bit, but I'd like to further elaborate on the diplomacy and dialogue angle. So this forum's vision is also very in line with Turkey's long-standing foreign policy, promoting diplomacy, mediation, dialogue. And we heard from Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan during the opening address as well, that it's no longer a choice, it's a necessity to promote diplomacy and dialogue. And how do you think Ankara is positioning itself when it comes to this mediation efforts, promoting dialogue, not only with this forum, but in general? How Ankara is positioning itself?
Ankara is actually under all circumstances, declaring its position for humanity. This is not just some national interest calculation. This is not just some limited realpolitik observation. Because there was an international environment in which we thought that there were some international law, international norms, rules. They are all banished, they are all abolished. That creates some kind of a tragic trauma in the minds of all humanity. So we, until the recent years, for instance, last 10 years, as a Turkish citizen, I tended to believe that there are some double standards in all these talks about international law, international norms. But at least we observed that some states have to observe some specific rules and norms. But in the last 5 years to 10 years, we see that states are clearly declaring their position as just dealing with their own limited specific national interests. This is a totally new world. This was not the case in the Cold War years. This was not the case in the post-Cold War years. But recently, there is no international law. The world politics is turning into a jungle rule situation. And recently, Canadian Prime Minister told us that international system is turning into an environment in which powerful does what powerful wishes to do, and the weaker side suffers what it has to suffer. This is a traumatic situation for world politics. So the previous system is being broken down, but we don't know what's coming next. In this situation, Turkey promotes some specific values, and it says Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan repeatedly on most of the cases just telling our ethic position does not differ from our strategic position. We support the humanity under all circumstances. It just doesn't need to be related to the Middle Eastern affairs. On all affairs, we support the weaker side, we support the justice. So Turkey believes that I believe that created some kind of an image in most of the cases, starting from Gaza to the Iran situation, from Libya to Lebanon, from Syria to Ukraine. In all cases, Turkish president told to the world community that we stand by the justice, we stand by the humanity, we stand by the children being killed in these war situations. So Ankara's opinion, Ankara's message to the world is very clear. We are standing with humanity, and we can build multiple relations with all our neighbors on this case. We are supporting peace, we are supporting stability, we are supporting welfare of our region first, then the entire planet. So this is our position. Ankara's position on these diplomatic affairs is very important. And also, our president is highlighting on all situations, there is no war. War cannot bring any kind of economic well-being for any kind of actor. In wars, you cannot win. In peace, you cannot lose. This is our slogan for the world. And I believe that because of the recent situation in world politics, there might be many supporters of that position. If we can create a front for humanity, this is going to be the best option for Turkey.
So I'd like to quickly follow up on your point there. Do you think that alignment of humanitarian approach and strategic approach makes Türkiye a credible broker? Türkiye is already one of the guarantors of the current ceasefire framework in Gaza. Turkey is pledging mediation and supporting the mediation efforts between the US and Iran. Pakistani Prime Minister is here today talking with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Qatari Emir is here, another guarantor. Do you think that alignment, or maybe what else makes Turkey a credible broker?
Once I remember Putin said Erdogan keeps his promises, he said. This creates a trust position among the state leaders. And the current world affairs actually tells us something. If there is a connection among the state leaders, state leadership diplomacy can solve most of the problems in a peaceful way. And I believe, take the example of Ukraine. In the case of Ukraine, people just easily made some irresponsible declarations just to solve the issue in a few days. But Turkey told, okay, we are against a Russian invasion of Ukraine. This is the right position. But we also believe that we need to negotiate the situation with the Russians. So this created the opportunity for creating peaceful talks for a negotiation situation. In the case of Gaza, Turkey, from the very beginning of the events, this told to the world community that this was a crash of humanity and humanity should be respected. In most cases, most of the state leaders were not courageous enough supporting the Gaza case. But Turkey, just for the sake of humanity, said this is the right position, so we are taking the right position, and this is not just a strategic calculation, this is a calculation for the humanity. We are standing with the Gaza people. Do you remember what happened in Sharm el-Sheikh? When the negotiation table was established, Erdogan became one of the most important negotiators. Why? Because Gazan people trusted Erdogan on that negotiation table. This creates an opportunity, this position creates also a strategic opportunity for the world affairs, and we are going to keep that promise. And Erdogan is an important actor in all these cases with his belief in humanity.
Thank you, sir. Going back to the war on Iran, US-Israeli war on Iran, there was an image where Turkey found itself surrounded by a ring of fire. The US-Israeli war on Iran, and Syria is stable now, but there's a history, and also the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. But still, Turkey remained a safe haven. And the Gulf, the uncertainty, the attacks, the fears, but Turkey and people who live in Turkey, people who were visiting Turkey, they never felt that fear. Why do you think is the reason?
Actually, for a long time, we observed multiple crises just on the borders of Turkey. Remember the case of Libya, remember the case of Syria, remember the case of Karabakh, remember the case of Ukraine, right now Iran, right now Gaza. In all these situations, President Erdogan, at the very beginning of all these crises, told two things. The first one is Turkey is not going to be part of crisis, Turkey is not going to be a part of wars. Because, secondly, we don't believe that these kinds of issues can be solved with the weapons. We believe into the words. We believe into the dialogue. We believe into the diplomacy. That is why Turkey is a safe haven in this crisis situation. It is surrounded by many crises, but Turkey stands as a safe haven. And that is why we are building these kind of diplomatic forums to just disseminate this safe zone. We are telling to our neighbors, we have no problem with you. We want no problems, we want no crisis, we want no wars. We are not just going to be part of these wars. We are standing for humanity, we are standing for peace, we are standing for stability, economic development, whatever it is. We are standing for our region, we are standing for this world. And we don't want to break our relations with our neighbors. This, in the long run, creates an image for our neighbors. Our neighbors believes that Turkey keeps its promises, and Turkey is a powerful actor, and Turkey is a friendly actor. This is the situation, I believe, which creates a safe zone for Turkey.
With that note, sir, we'll have to end it here. We're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us here on TRT World on the sidelines of Antalya Diplomacy Forum.